Resident Evil Rankings.
Hello everybody and welcome to the third and final video in this Resident Evil Rankings extravaganza. And again, Cody Leach, the best of the rankings masters of YouTube people out there. What the hell does that mean? Thanks again for including me in this. It's fun. And you know what, everybody? I like ranking videos. I've never done them before, and I've kind of gotten the gist or the vibe and just the fun of it. You know, some creativity's been spruing from these videos, especially the second one. And I'm enjoying myself, so I may do more videos. So I may be another ranking channel, but it's all Cody Leach's fault. But without further ado, everybody, this is going to be my top 10 Resident Evil games of all time. Now, just to give you a little backstory, I've been playing Resident Evil since 1996 when Resident Evil 1 came out on the PS1. So I hold a lot of nostalgic love and value in those first experiences, and I'll go into more detail about those later. But I played every game for the exception of the Revelations series and the shooters, you know, those first-person shooters. This is going to be the main console games, more or less. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on my top 10 Resident Evil games. Coming in at number 10 is Resident Evil Nemesis, the remake that came out just last year. I love the game. It was beautiful. I love the innovative, enhancements they made on the Nemesis, the different forms they took, and, just the overall look and feel, and just seeing Jill Valentine again on the PS4. I love the game, but son of a bitch, it was just too short. I beat it like in my lunch hour. It was so fast. And I remember fighting the Nemesis, and at the last stage of the battle, I'm like, I got all this Magnum ammo left over. I got all these acid rounds. I'm like fully loaded, ready to go fight like an army of Nemesis, and I didn't even use anything. So I was kind of disappointed with the experience being so short, but I just love the innovation of it. So number 10 is Resident Evil Nemesis Remake. Coming in at number 9 is Resident Evil 7. Now, little thing you don't know about me is that I suffer from motion sickness. I cannot, for the life of me, play first-person games. Call of Duty, forget it. I will be in nausea hell for the next 2 hours, and I have to go to a room and close my eyes and just rest. So playing first-person games is a hell of an experience for me. But I fought through it with Resident Evil 7 and 8. I have to play these games in 2-hour increments, believe it or not. But Resident Evil 7, I will admit, it brought me back to the Resident Evil that I love from the first two games. It's just you, isolated, you're in these close-quarter environments, and you have to go through this hellish experience. And I have to admit, the family in that game is terrifying. Just the innovative fight scenes, there's like some sort of like scissor chainsaw battle that you have to do. It's very innovative, and I love how personal it felt. It was like a very personal experience for Ethan Winters. And it really brought back that John Carpenter isolation. I'm all on my own. I can't call anybody for help type of fear. Those are my favorite types of movies and games. So Resident Evil 7 is number 9. Coming in number 8 is Resident Evil 8. Again, I just beat that. And again, of all the games I played in the Resident Evil franchise, this one really had more of an emotional hit with me. I'm a father, and I can relate to Ethan Winters' motivation in saving his daughter and all that. And the ending really had an emotional hit inside of me, like, oh wow, this is really a different type of ending in a Resident Evil. It was more poignant, and there was like a sacrifice made, and we've had sacrifices in the past before with Ada Wong and all these other things, but this one felt personal and it felt intimate. Just a regular man looking to save his daughter, and plus the environments in that game were really amazing. Like I've said before in other videos, I wish Lady D was more of a poignant character in the film, in the game. I loved her. I wish we get more of her. And there were some unique takes with like each family member or each lord had a different type of experience. My favorite was probably the puppeteer, I forget her name, but the baby environment. We're just running from this fetus. It was the closest, that was actually the scariest moment of the entire game, but it felt very much like a PT game. And I hope we get PT someday soon. But anyway, that was the scariest moment of the game. And number 8 is Resident Evil 8. Coming in at number 7 is a Resident Evil 2 remake that came out a couple years ago. What can I say? I mean, it was really cool to see everybody upgraded from the PS1 graphics to the PS4. I like the new enhancements. Mr. X was more terrifying than ever in this game. And just, what can we say? Nostalgia is really got a hold on everybody. And, when you have that nostalgic type of feel when you're playing a game, and the experience is just all more heartfelt. And I really just love seeing the characters again, just the different type of dialogue. And it's really cool. I hope with every generation console they re-release these games in a new graphical interface and design. I really enjoy seeing that. Resident Evil 2, you know, we'll talk more about that later. It was a great experience and a different but similar and familiar experience. So that's what I have at number 7. Coming in at number 6 is Resident Evil Nemesis, the original for the PS1. Believe it or not, I remember after beating Resident Evil 2, I had no idea. This is before the internet and everything. I had no idea they were making a Nemesis game. And I remember going to Electronic Boutique. You remember that? Before it was EB Games? I remember seeing Joe Valentine and the Nemesis. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Oh, it's a Resident Evil game. I'm like, what? And I looked at the back and I went home and played it. And I loved the intro. It was like a Return of the Living Dead type of intro. But it was more action-based. Some of the puzzles were really hard. To this day, I don't know how I solved that water puzzle. There was no internet cheat codes. I think about the book. You had to remember you had to buy the book back then for the cheat codes and all that. I think that's what I had to do. But I loved how it was a run and gun atmosphere, and I love how the Nemesis was just an enhancement of Mr. X or the Tyrants. He looked cool. He had the leather outfit. He's got a rocket launcher, and he ran after you and bursted through walls. So I remember the pace being faster. There was way more ammo. It was way more action-based, way more zombies to shoot. And then you had this guy running after you. So it was a Resident Evil with a little tweak of excitement and more action. So Nemesis, I'll never forget that. The PS1 is my favorite. I love it, and that's coming in at number 6. I really wish they would have had that remake of Nemesis a little bit longer. It would have been so much cooler. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Coming in at number 5 is Resident Evil 4 on the Gamecube. Now, I know that'll be everybody's number 1. Well, most of everybody's. That'll be their number 1 game of the Resident Evil series. But for me, I don't know. It's great. I loved it. I remember when it did come out back in 2002. That's the last time I played it. I played it over and over again. I loved it. That's actually one of the main reasons I got a GameCube. And Resident Evil 4 didn't feel terrifying. And let me explain what I mean. Of course, there's a sandbag chainsaw wielding enemy coming at you. That's terrifying as hell, right? You're running for your life. Resident Evil, here's like how I'd like to describe horror movies. Resident Evil 4 felt like the Funhouse horror experience. Or you're going to go see Annabelle at the movies. You're going to have a great time. That 1 hour, 30 minutes, you're going to be on the edge of your seat. It's like a Funhouse. You know, things are going to jump out of nowhere. You know the jump scares are going to be coming. And it's fun, but after it's over, you're done with it. Then there's the other horror experience. Like imagine going to a real haunted house and you don't know what's around the corner. Just walking down the hallways or in the living room, you're terrified because you don't know what, if anything, will pop up. That's the fear that I felt with Resident Evil 1 and 2. I didn't have that same feeling with Resident Evil 4. I hope I explain myself clearly, but that's what I mean. It's a fun game. I love it. It's everybody's favorite, but for me, it didn't have that fear element that made the Resident Evil games unique. And that's my number 5. Now coming in at number 4 is Resident Evil Code Veronica. Now, I'm smiling because there's a strong nostalgic feeling of just happiness and joy playing that game. I remember I bought a Dreamcast specifically for that game and being really upset that, wait a minute, Capcom signed a deal with Dreamcast? What happened to the PlayStation? Now I gotta get a Dreamcast. Dreamcast, one of the best underrated consoles of all time. I love that system. But I remember playing that game to this day and going through every stage, and I remember it feeling beautiful. And what I mean by that, because it just wasn't those fixed camera, those static backgrounds where you're just running through the hallways. The camera was following you at times. Everything looked so beautiful and enhanced. Even the animation, the opening sequence where Jill's kind of doing that John Woo type of action scene, it was memorable. And just the scenes going into the mythology and the twins, I forget, Ariel and Alexis, whoever the hell they are, on the island was really terrifying. And it's one of those gaming experience in my childhood I was like 21 at the time, but it's one of those gaming experiences that I always hold dear in my heart. And I remember playing it and I'll never forget that. But I remember it feeling like a beautiful experience. And it was really, you know, when you go from console to console, you expect like a generation of graphics to be enhanced. I remember going for the PS1 to the Dreamcast and just being mind blown. Wow, this is amazing. Look at the graphics, look at the sound. And then, you know, you had that memory card you can insert in the controller and you can see your health on the controller. Like, oh God, it was freaking amazing. It was such a great experience overall. So it should have been number 1. No. Number 4 is Code Veronica. One of the most underrated and beautifully made games in the Resident Evil series. God, I love that game. Now we're getting to the top 3, and I have to be honest with everybody. I was shuffling between these 3 up until I just hit record right now on this video camera. So it's tough to say what's number 1. You may be surprised at what's number 1, but it was really difficult to me to rank these. So without further ado, let's go on to number 3. Number 3 is a Resident Evil remake for the GameCube. I actually have this downloaded on my PS4. That's how much I love this game. Taking the Resident Evil 1 experience and then... I mean, look at the graphics now, to this day, right now, we're in 2021. Look at the graphics in the GameCube. They look great. They look fantastic. And just adding a different element with the music, the voice acting was better. The Crimson Zombies, you had to actually burn them with kerosene so they didn't jump up and attack you. That was terrifying. I love it. I still play it once a year. That's how much I love it. And it holds up. It really does. It's a beautiful game from the lightning. You know, you're just walking down the hallways and you hear a thunderstorm and the rain just hitting the window and the reflection of the lightning through the windows. It looks beautiful. I don't know why. It always reminded me if Zack Snyder did a video game, it would look like that. Because when I saw 300, I'm like, why does this remind me of Resident Evil in the GameCube? It just has that texture, that matte painting type of look. It's aged, but it's beautiful. Oh my God, it's one of the best experiences ever. The enhancements are great. The intro was better, no more bad acting or real life people acting in the beginning. But Resident Evil 1 remake for the GameCube, one of the best games ever. Again, I play it to this day. Now for the next two, my final two, I may ramble on a little bit because I'm going down memory lane and these are the very dear experiences to me. So if you're new to the channel because Cody sent you, bear with me. If you like what I have to say and you like how I deliver these rankings, hit the subscribe button. I'd like to talk to people like I'm talking to a friend. We're at lunch talking video games. This is how I would act with you. So let's go on to number 2. Number 2 is Resident Evil 2 for the PS1. Oh man. I remember asking for the day off to get this game. I couldn't pre-order it at Electronic Boutique because they were sold out. So I remember me and my girlfriend, fiance, you know, ex-wife, we took the day off. We went to Toys R Us. They had a copy. And I remember looking at the cover and being terrified of the cover. And we go home. As soon as I get home, I'll call my nephew and say, hey, I got it. Come over, dude. Come over right now. Come over right now. It was my girlfriend, my nephew, and I at my parents' house. I was 21. That's how old I am. I'm really old. I was 21 playing Resident Evil 2 on the PS1. And I chose Leon Kennedy as my first campaign. But I was blown away at the innovation of this game because depending on who you picked, so let's say you picked Leon for the first scenario, you beat it, the replay value was amazing. Then you can go play Claire, and depending on the decisions you made as Leon, it would change her outcome. So you had a game that you can technically replay up to 4 times and experience 4 different scenarios. What other game does that nowadays? Seriously, there was a lot of effort put into that game. And I remember the graphics just being insane. The voice acting was way better. And I was just blown away with the enemies like William Birkin. Like, you understand, it's like a Greek tragedy sort of story where he was working on a serum. His family was involved with an umbrella, but yet, you know, they killed him. Then he had to inject himself with the T-virus. This guy, you had one guy following you the entire gaming experience. And each time you saw him, his form would change and it just looked grotesque. And, you know, you have to really just reverse and place your mind back in 1998, 99 when this game came out and think about, you know, you've grown up in the 80s, you've played NES games, you've played Super Nintendo games, now the PlayStation comes out, the 64's out, and you're seeing the graphics in this game and you're like, wow, gaming is starting to reach a cinematic level where I'm getting a line blurred between a cinematic experience and a gaming experience. That's mind-blowing! That's mind-blowing, and Metal Gear did the same thing. By the way, go check out my Metal Gear video, it's one of my best videos ever. I felt like I was playing an action movie, and I was controlling the lead actress in an action game, a zombie action game. I saw shards of, you know, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, and I loved it. It was a wonderful experience, and I just remember being terrified. And, you know, I didn't have surround sound, but I had that one speaker when I turned it up and just hearing the zombies like, oh. It was a wonderful experience. And I will take that to my grave. I will take that to my grave. Resident Evil 2 for the PS1 is my number 2. Now to the number 1. My number 1 all-time Resident Evil game is Resident Evil Part 1 for the PS1. Let me take you back to 1996. I had just got a PS1. I bought Mortal Kombat 3 and Battle Arena Toshinden. Those are the only games that I bought, and everyone was giving me shit. Oh, you should have waited for the 64, dude. This PlayStation is going to be like the Jaguar. No one's going to want to buy that. It's going to be over before you know it. I'm like, no, I just feel something a little bit different about this console. I like what I see. I'm going to give it a shot. And it was one of the greatest decisions I've ever made. I've been a PlayStation loyal guy since 1995, 96 when I bought it. But then Resident Evil came out. Keep in mind, I love horror movies, just like Cody. I love horror movies with a passion. And this is the very first gaming experience I had where I was terrified. First ever, I was terrified. I remember, as cheesy as the acting was, I was involved. I was vested. You know, the dogs chase you in, you're in the zombie, this mansion, you hear a gunshot. Barry Burton and you go check it out. I remember that first encounter of that zombie where he's eating that one dude in that one room. And you know what I'm talking about. I remember going through that door, walking down the end of that room, and then the cutscene starts. You see the zombie eating whatever, you hear that noise, and then the zombie turns around and looks at you in the camera. I'll never forget how my heart dropped to my stomach, and I was terrified. And I'm like, get the fuck out of there. I didn't want to fight this thing. I was terrified. And I'll never forget that. In no game prior, I've been playing games since Pac-Man on the 2600. All right? I go back to 83, man. No game had ever scared me that way. And I'm like, holy crap, we're now this new age where games can now feel like movies. And I turned around, of course, and killed the zombie, and Barry shoots it with a magnum and then kills the zombie. But I remember having nightmares about that one sequence and how, you know, you can watch a horror movie, but this is the first time I felt like I was in a horror movie, and my actions dictated whether I died. And when I first died in the PS1 game, and, you know, and they're eating you, and then it says you died, I got sick to my stomach. I died. It wasn't like Mario. It wasn't like a Mario game where you just fall off the edge, or Koopa touches your leg and you go, whoop, and you just fly off the screen. No, they're eating you alive. Do you understand that? I know games are so modern now and people don't think about that, but think about that. You were being eaten alive in a game. That had never happened. That never happened before. That never happened before. Think about that. It never happened before. And it blew my mind. And then the jump scares. I remember going down the one hallway, and we all know that sequence of the dogs jump through the window. I shit my pants. And lightning just struck right now. Oh, how poignant. Okay, pretty cool. Well, anyway, everybody. There have been other games that have scared me, of course, as the years have gone by, but this was the very first game. And I'll never forget it. I will never forget it. That is why Resident Evil Part 1 on the PS1 is my #1 and all-time favorite Resident Evil game. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this rankings videos. Again, Cody, thank you for having me be part of this. Thank you for asking me, dude. I really had a good time, and I'm really enjoying ranking videos. I mean, I'm gonna do more. I've got the bug. I've got the fever now. I got a fever, and my only prescription is more rankings videos. So it's all your fault, dude. I'm gonna do more rankings videos. But sincerely, thank you for having me be part of this. Everybody, if you like my videos, hit the subscribe button, put some comments, let me know what you think, and I would appreciate it. And as always, everybody, thank you for watching Rudy's Movie Reviews, San Antonio's official movie critic. Please take care, God bless, and live long and prosper. I'm out.